Hi, my name is Jeff Lima, and this video is all about me. Uh, but it's dedicated to you if you're one of my students, especially someone that just met me, a new student, because I want to help you understand me better. Because I think that's important for us to have a good connection. And connecting with my students, building that relationship is very important because research shows that when students feel like they have a good relationship with their teacher, they're more motivated, uh, dedicated, they are going to be happier being in the environment where their teacher is. They're going to be more inspired and more likely to do well. And I want you to do well. So I definitely want those things for us. However, it's unfortunately the case that I struggle with creating good connections. And my whole life, that's been a challenge for me. And I hope this video will help you understand why and help you maybe meet me halfway and know that I care about you. I want you to feel that you can rely on me. I want you to feel like I can be your person, someone that you can go to and talk to or ask for advice, someone that will listen to you when you need to be heard, someone that will give you help when you need to be supported, uh, someone who's there for you. Uh, that is definitely what I want for us. But I know that sometimes I get the opposite. People think that I am mean. People think that I am rude. People think that am just too intense or altogether just a little bit too much. And it makes me sad to have to say these things because I don't believe they're true. I believe I get perceived that way a lot. And I understand that there are things that I do that make that make sense. And I don't want to do those things. It is not my intention to make someone feel frustrated, angry, upset, stressed out because of the way I am, because of what I've done. School is already challenging enough without that. But the fact is, whether it's my students or other people in my life, I struggle to be understood. And some of it I take responsibility for because is I understand that my actions shouldn't be the ones that tend to make people feel this way. But at the same time, I feel that a lot of it has to do with just who I am and the challenges that I face in adapting or fitting in normal social situations. And I don't think that those things are challenges. I like them. I think that they're advantages. I think that they're assets. I think they make me be as awesome as I am. Uh, but that's not how it always gets perceived. And I understand that's the case, and I understand why. So I want you to know that I'm not trying to make excuses for myself. I'm not trying to justify any time that I made you feel sad, upset, or unsafe. I shouldn't make you feel that way. But I'm hoping that after watching this video and learning a little bit more about me, you maybe see that that's never my intention and that I need your help to help you help me. There's a lot of help in there. Um, so help me be a better teacher for you. And I promise I'll try really hard to continue to improve in what do I do. I care a lot about my students and I care a lot about my career. Being a teacher is more than just who I am. Uh, it, it is part of my I feel my purpose. So it's not just a job for me. So you can bet that I take a special interest in this. So I'm not just making excuses, but I hope that at least you will accept my explanation so that the next time that you feel a little bit upset about something that I do, you give me the benefit of the doubt, tell me that you felt upset, and believe me when I say that I am approachable and I do want to work with you well. And if you do tell me that, I will strive to make changes. And I hope in return, you will strive to understand that it is okay for me to be different and that some of those differences come with advantages. So I hope in this video will help you see that and understand a little bit better about not just me, but other people like me whom you may encounter in your life. And maybe you are one of those people too. who are like me in this sense. So what am I talking about? Well, there are natural things about me that make me be um, have a tendency to be very energetic, passionate, and have certain mannerisms and idiosyncrasies. You can call them weirdness if you want. I like to call them special things about me that other people aren't used to. It also makes me think different than most people do and act and say things in ways that other people don't. It also makes me struggle in recognizing certain things about other people. And all of that makes it really hard for me to work with other people. But I also think that because I know about these challenges and I work really hard on them, I end up actually often doing better than most because I pay attention to those things since I struggle with them. While other people, for who those things comes naturally, maybe don't strive to make them better. So I think at the end, I'm okay. And I'm okay because the things that make me be this way make me also have really cool advantages, which I wish more people could benefit from. I am neurodivergent, and I like using that word instead of what you may have heard with autism or non neurotypical, because those can have negative connotations or a lot of baggage of what people think is true. And the truth is, no two people who are like me are actually like me. This label, neurodivergence, means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But what it does mean is that my brain is different from the way that most people's brains work. And I like to say that it's true that everybody's different. Everybody's special. Everybody's good at certain things and bad at some other things. And that's true. And I'm surely true about you, I'm sure. But I'm a little bit extra different. I don't fit in with the normal averages of other people. And I'm going to spend some time telling you some of the ways in which I'm different, uh, which may affect the way that we interact with each other. Now, this is not all about me and who I am. In the description of the video, I'm going to put a survey that I usually send to my students, and I'm going to answer the survey as well. And then you can learn a lot about me that has nothing to do with this. I'm not an autistic person. That's not who I am. Okay. And I also have a website that I talk a little bit about my story. If you want to hear more about that, look at the description, or maybe I'll record another video and talk about that in the future. But right now, I'm talking about an aspect of myself that doesn't define myself, but it certainly affects the way other people perceive me and the way I interact with them. And so I think it's important to talk about it if we're going to work together well. So what does it mean to be neurodivergent? And how does that affect the way I interact with my students? It's what are some of the challenges that I face and what do I do about them? That's what I'm going to talk about. But before I do, you should also know that on top of this, I was also raised in a family that, being from Latin America and Brazilian, it was a large family with a lot of, uh, you know, family members always coming over to visit, and lots of parties, lots of noise, lots of dinners. And I was always the youngest, the smallest, and the one that wanted the most attention, but wasn't getting the attention in the way they wanted. Um, I was misunderstood even as a kid because I was different, neurodivergent, and people struggle to deal with me. I guess you can tell that way. And so I've learned to kind of mistrust relationships with other people and almost expect them to fail to understand me. But I still wanted the attention. And so I was always overreacting, right? Always being a little bit too much so that I can get that attention, especially since there was so much loudness going on. So I had to be extra loud, and I've learned to be loud because of that. I also learned that intensity, that energy, that passion from the culture in which I was raised, and that separately from my neurodivergence makes me uniquely different. I think in a community that I teach today, where that's not necessarily always recognized as normal. Normal to me doesn't mean anything special either because no one is normal. What people think normal is doesn't fit anyone. but I'm certainly outside the average in the level of intensity that I bring to the equation. So I understand when people say that I'm a little bit too much because maybe I am, but it's not coming from a place of it's coming from a place of passion and a place of having a lot of energy and a mind that is always racing and working a little bit different. So the neurodivergence and my upbringing are both important factors in that. Also, I'm not afraid to be a little bit vulnerable and tell you that I was abused as a child. I think that I wasn't treated properly because of that. Um, and I think that I was also, um, well, there was people that were angry because of their own problems and were mean to me, uh, not because of who I was, but just because of them. And that sucked. But uh, what you need to know is that I grew up from that. I've done a lot of therapy, a lot of work, a lot of reading, and a lot of intentional practice into growing as a person. But it's never going to stop being the case that I am who I am and I grew up the way I grew up. And so, even if I try to adapt to the needs of others, there are things about me which are always going to pull me back in a different direction. And there are things about me that I think I shouldn't adapt to others. And I think others should adapt to me instead. I wish society was more accepting of people who are different because, well, that's okay to be different. And in some cases, it's better. Um, so let's talk about some of the ways in which I'm different and how that actually helps or hurts, and what we can do to kind of understand each other better. Now, I'm not going to be able to tell you everything that's different about me, and also don't assume that what's true about me is true about any other neurodivergent person. I'm just going to give you a sample so that enough, I think, so that you can understand me a little bit better. So, talked a little bit about being loud already, and uh, how my family upbringing made that even more intense. But my tone of voice is my intensity in voice actually, well, in everything, actually comes from this too. I don't actually realize what my tone of voice is. It takes me constant effort to not be loud. I can try. I can I can try to modulate my voice and be more calm. I can try to be mindful of where I'm at and just like tone it down and curb my enthusiasm. But I literally have to constantly be there in that mental state to bring myself down a notch. When I go back up, I don't even realize I'm there. That's just my normal. And I don't realize how that comes across to other people. Combined with a certain level of energy and speed that I always talk, it makes me feel very, very intense to some people. So I tell other people that I am okay with you telling me, just, slow down. I'm not gonna get offended by that. I just need to know that you're there, that you feel like you need that, because I am not going to naturally give it to you, even though I'm practicing and trying, because I'm always pulled in that direction. That has something to do with the way I think too, because my brain is always going at 1,000 miles an hour. I think very, very fast. In fact, being in the real world, interacting with other people, feels like everybody else is in slow motion, right? So if you watch a YouTube video in like a quarter of the speed, that's how it feels like to me to be in the real world. And I don't mean that as a bad thing about other people. I'm calling other people slow. That's not what I mean. I just know that I'm fast. I just know that like when people are talking, I'm like, you could be talking 3 times faster and I would understand. Like, let's go already. And that makes me naturally impatient because I am always in a state of like my time is being wasted. And I've been to change my mindset and be like, that's not a nice way to think about other people. But the thing is that I could be doing 3 other things at the same time, and that bothers me because I feel like I'm being slowed down by the world. In fact, another thing that's peculiar about my mind, if it's two different types of sensory inputs, I can actually pay attention to two things at once. I don't. It's hard for me to do two things at once, but I can pay attention to two things at once. So if I'm like listening to a book and like reading something else or writing something, I can actually do both things simultaneously and pay attention to both and repeat exactly both and understand everything about both. So that's really weird. Most people don't understand how that works. In fact, some of them get offended because they think like you're not paying attention to me. It's like, no, I am. You want me to repeat everything I just said? You just said? And in even saying that, it's something that they don't like to hear, right? And that's the kind of thing I would say because I struggle with my filter, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the point is, uh, I can do a lot in less time and at the same time, which to other people seems very confusing. Uh, I also think with pictures. That's really different than most people. I don't know if most people have pictures in their mind. If I ask you to like imagine driving to the convenience store next to your house, you would probably be able to picture that in your mind. But I always think like that. It's just images. It's like imagine yourself going to Google Images and searching a word and seeing all those images popping out at once in your head. That's how my brain works. Everything is archived with pictures. So when you say a word like uh, all those pictures jump into my head at the same time, and then I'm having like flashes of thousands of images every single minute. And that's how I think, just a series of images. And I don't know how to explain that to other people because it's difficult to explain to someone who hasn't seen it, but it's not the same as visualizing going to the convenience store. It's like flipping to a book of pictures in your head every single second. And that makes it difficult for me to communicate sometimes because I have to translate everything that I'm thinking into verbal language that other people can understand. Like I wish I could teleport my images to your head so you can see what I'm seeing. But instead, I have to settle for a translation. And sometimes things get lost in translation, and it's not exactly what I'm picturing. It's also going really fast, really, really fast. And I can't process the speech as fast as I'm thinking. Never. It just doesn't happen. And sometimes the images flash back because I'm still in the same concept. So the images keep coming back. And that causes me to repeat myself. And even when I don't realize I'm repeating myself. And people hate that about me, but it's how I am. And I'm so detail oriented that I want to make sure that I say what I want to say. And so I will say it again, right? Just to make sure that I said it. And so uh, that is annoying to people as well. Usually, there is an aspect of the picture thinking that also makes life difficult in social environments, which is I think to pick up patterns and notice details that other people don't. And because I care about doing a good job in certain, when I care about those details, I will over focus on things that for other people are irrelevant. But for me, it's all part of the big picture. And I can see how it connects to the big picture, and I can't just let it go. It's hard for me to let go of those details. Um, but but on the other hand, I'm not like that with emotions. I get very, very frustrated and excited for a second, and then the next second, I don't even remember how I was feeling. It just goes away. And I definitely can't understand how people linger to their emotions. It just doesn't. It's like I don't feel it in my body or in my mind, like the rehearsing of emotions the way other people do. I definitely get emotional, but it doesn't have a lasting effect. At least not that I notice. Maybe deep inside there's things going on and I'm being affected by that, but it's not in my conscious awareness the way it seems to be to some other people. I also don't understand their emotions. All the fuss, all the fuss is about. I could be caring, I could be emotional, but I don't really get it. Like, why is it such a big deal, right? Uh, and I also struggle thinking about the way they think because I don't think like them. I think with pictures and I think really fast, and I think, and my mind is pulling me in 10,000 directions all at once, and I can follow many of those directions and still keep track of what I need to do. Uh, I do have to have systems in place sometimes to kind of hold me back in so that I don't take the tangents because otherwise I go in on tangents. But I learned structures just like I learned to talk, learned to interact in other environments. I was trained to be to pretend to be a normal person. Uh, I've learned systems to kind of hone in the explosiveness of my mind. But it's like trying to contain a bomb, right? It's not completely doable. But anyways, I struggle to understand the way other people are thinking and feeling, and I definitely struggle to pick up on what they are feeling or thinking in response to what I did or said. So I have struggled a lot with reading the room, and it's not that I don't care about other people. It's not that I don't pay attention to them. It's not that I don't want to hurt them. It's just that I already moved on. By the time I hurt you, my mind is already three steps forward, and so because I'm going so fast, I don't even notice, and I have to stop and slow down a lot to notice. And even if I try to pay attention to the way other people are receiving what I'm saying and what I'm doing, and try to really focus, it's just like the tone, right? Really focus on their body language and facial expressions, or even straight up what they're saying, their tone. I still struggle to understand what they're trying to emotionally communicate. And that feels like a handicap sometimes. I'm going to be honest, just because it's like I don't get you, right? I don't get people sometimes. I mean, I get it at an intellectual level, but it doesn't feel like I get it, and it certainly doesn't feel for like that for them. And it takes it a lot for me to realize that they're upset. And by the time I do, they're really, really upset. I haven't picked up on the cues that they have been giving me. And I wish people were just like, just tell me that you're upset right away. Tell me. And then they tell me, but I did tell you. It's like, well, it clearly wasn't clear enough. Unless I stopped and said, I understood what you felt, I didn't understand what you felt. Because if I had understood, I would have stopped and told you that. So I try to coach people who are in my life a lot to say things like, to ask me for understanding, and basically say things like, do you are you picking up on what I'm telling you right now, right? So for example, if a person wants to be left alone and I'm just insisting because I'm fixated, this is a special project now. It's something that neurodivergent people do a lot. They fixate on something, and it's almost like a kind of hyper focus or hyper interest. So if I'm interested or focused on solving a problem, it's really hard for me to drop it. So the person's like, okay, it's just too much. Get away from me right now. I didn't even get. I mean, they could say those words, and it still goes over my head. I know that's like there's no excuse for that, right? You need to. I got to do better than that, but I don't. And so, what I end up doing is steamrolling all over that, and that obviously upsets people. But if they stops and say, "Okay, what did I just ask you to do?" I might be like, "Oh, you want me to stop talking right now?" Okay. So asking me for my that acknowledgement can make a big difference. And realizing that my mind is going fast, asking me to slow down can make a big difference, right? Understanding that I'm thinking in pictures and translating to you can make a big difference, because then you can understand why I fixate on certain details that other people don't care about, right? All of that can make a big difference, right? I am not trying to be mean, to be intense, to be too much. I'm not trying to misunderstand your emotions or misunderstand what you're saying. I am not trying to not have a filter, to not notice that what I said hurt you. My mind is just going way too fast for my own good. And even when I try to slow it down, it's still trying to do 10 things, to go in 10 directions. Um, my hyper focus that makes me highly productive and be able to do everything with more detail very fast can be overbearing for other people that feel like they can keep up with it. There's another thing too, that I used to get very stimulated very quickly by certain particular stimuli in my environment, and I am not so much more about like that, but I still overstimulate sometimes, either from my own head or just from things going on around me, and then I escalate even more than I already am, and that makes the explosion that is to be around me even worse sometimes. It's called, like, when you have a mind that's going at 1,000 miles an hour, everything gets amplified. Um, that's another important one that matters a lot to understand me, for sure. So it's not difficult for me, but it's difficult for other people. Some things, especially the way I am, and I wish it wasn't the case, but I struggle a lot. I feel like I struggle a lot to be understood. This is not an excuse to make you feel sad, upset, or to say things that I shouldn't have said, or be too negative, or do too detail oriented, or to make you feel like I wasn't kind, right? I need to know that you felt this way. And I know it takes a lot of courage to say to a teacher that you're not okay. That that but if you don't tell me, I'm not gonna stop because I am relentless, determined, passionate, hyper driven, super energetic, do things at 1,000 miles an hour. You're dealing with the flash, right? So yeah, it's going to be hard for me to understand. It's like, how are they not done reading that yet? I read 1,000 page, 1,000 pages a day. Why are they reading so slow, right? It's not that I think people are less. It's not that I think that I'm more. I just struggle sometimes. Now, these things you would think would make it impossible for me to be a teacher because you need to understand how people feel, where they are, but then I put structures in place like checks for understanding, like uh, check-ins, like uh, use timers to intentionally give wait time and give students enough time to do what they're supposed to be doing so that I don't put undue pressure and I still get pulled in that direction. So when I'm a little bit too much, when it feels like I am being too intense or too intimidating or too energetic or just straight up weird, remember, I'm just a little bit different. My mind doesn't work the same, but I care about you. I want you to help you succeed. Give me a chance. Tell me how you feel. Let me adjust to you. Try to adjust a little bit to me. I also, um, I also think that some of those things that may appear as challenges are also part of the reason why I can be fantastic in other areas. And um, I don't want to lose that, right? Ever. So I am proud of the things that make me unique, even though I realize that it makes it difficult for me to build connections with the people that isolate me. Um, I go in places and I'm like this extrovert, life of the party. Everybody noticed that I'm there, but I go home alone and misunderstood. Don't have a lot of friends because at the end of the day, people can't deal with that for long term. Uh, so it's hard to keep people around. I don't know if I just didn't found my crowd or if it's just the course of life of someone like me, but I struggle. I'm not going to lie with the social aspect of living. Uh, and being a teacher is very social. Um, but I think that, again, because I have these difficulties, which I think are assets, I also focus on those things a lot and I work on them. And because of that, I think I end up doing a good job anyways, because I pay more attention to improving myself than the average person does. So I think even the things that that are difficult for me in the context of a social environment are still blessings because I think I make it the best out of it. Right? There's still uh, uh, I'm glad that I have those challenges because it gives me an opportunity to focus on improving myself and end up being better because of it. Uh, I might even do better than the average person on in some of those things a lot of the time, but not all of the time. And a few times that I don't is enough to push people away. But I don't want to push you away. I don't want to push my students away. So I hope that you know that I'm going to try not to. But if I do hurt you, upset you, or become too much, I gotta know. You gotta tell me because I probably don't realize. And it's not because I don't care. I care a lot. It's the opposite. It's in fact because I care so much that I do a lot of these things. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't make this a special project, which is something else that uh, I tend to do. So uh, I kind of feel bad because I feel like I have to justify being who I am. I wish I didn't have to, but I understand too that it's not easy to deal with me. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm sorry that you have to deal with me, and I hope that the good things about being my student uh, can be valuable enough that you at the end of the day, like most of my students do, you can look back and say it was worth it. I learned a lot from that guy. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I also want to share that I put in the description of this video a link to some resources about autism that people that do a better job than I do in explaining what neurodivergence is. There's a YouTube playlist with my favorite videos about that. Some websites that I'll recommend looking at. My favorite movies, cartoons, TV series, and YouTube channels about autism and neurodivergence. And I hope you engage with some of those things, if nothing else, to learn more about people who are out there, and maybe even yourself, because maybe you're a little like this too. Who knows? Uh, but also to learn that your teacher, who cares a lot about you and about doing a good job, is just coming from a good place. And sometimes he does things from with his big heart which aren't the best. Just tell him that. He can take it. That's one thing that you should know about me. I don't take criticism badly at all. I get defensive sometimes because I'm detail oriented and I want you to know my perspective, but that doesn't mean I don't listen and I don't change and I don't adjust or course correct based on what you tell me. There's a lot more that I would like to say, and my mind would keep telling me to repeat myself. But I'm going to end it here and just say being neurodivergent is okay. And in some ways, it would make me a fantastic teacher. And latch onto that, and you will have a great year with me. I promise. Um, I really hope that we can work together well. And thank you. Whatever happens, don't do anything that would not make your mama proud.